So I will kind of combine some themes from Rob and Francis around innovation in COVID time and the challenges working also remotely for innovation. So my name is Prof Lifshitz-Assaf, and this is brand new research. I'm showing preliminary insights and some stuff that are clear results, and I would welcome any comments and feedback or questions that you have. So I put my contact details here, h@NYU. So what is different about innovating in COVID time, and why am I focusing on that? One clear difference is that we need to accelerate innovation. Saving time means saving life. So how can we innovate in those areas that we do need innovation and that are increasing faster? So I will focus on two levels of analysis today. One is the team level of analysis. This is based on field studies that I've been conducting on accelerating teams and the work process for innovation with Sarah Leibovich and Lior Zalmanson, and it's now in press, and the link for the paper will be in the chat. And a new study that I'm now doing with the European Commission in a big effort I'll share with you soon, called EU versus Virus. There we're focusing also on remote collaboration on the team level. And then the second study that I will share towards the end is the organizational level of analysis, what organizations are doing, how are they using new ways of open innovation to accelerate their innovation process. And this is a mixed method study with Karim Lakhani and researchers affiliates in his lab. So why is it so hard to accelerate innovation? To begin with, time pressure impedes creativity. It is very hard to innovate from a cognitive perspective, and Francis was emphasizing, these are new conditions, there is stress, time pressure, does not go so well with opening your mind and thinking outside of the box. So how do we do that? And the additional layer of a challenge is the team level of coordination. So usually it's hard to coordinate with people that you've just met. So what happens when you have ad hoc teams, as many companies and organizations are doing, people that usually have just met either from different places in their organizations or across organizations that are trying to solve together COVID-related problems very fast. So ad hoc plus acceleration, that's very hard. So most of the research that we have so far will tell us that this will fail. So time pressure impedes creativity, and coordination with the lack of a common ground and with the lack of a pre-organized structure leads to failure. But this is happening and needs to happen. So I've been studying that in the last couple of years in health tech hackathons, where you bring people that have just met for 2 or 3 days to solve such emergent and problems that in the end, a very ambitious goal, in 72 hours, you need to hand over a working prototype to a needed user. So this is the paper that I said that is now in press, and you can find it also in the COVID-related part since we updated it to COVID. And there's the new study that I will share with you soon on the COVID-related hackathons as well. But what have I learned from studying this for kind of 2 or 3 years? So I've learned that teams fall into 2 common mistakes. The first one is how to deal with the time pressure. Most teams try to deal with it by compressing the regular organizational processes of innovation, the best practices that we teach and that we know to do, they're just trying to make them faster. So if they're doing Agile or Scrum and they have once a day a stand-up meeting, they're trying to do it once an hour. This does not work. So as Francis also said, we cannot just import our regular processes and expect them to work if we just compress them. The second problem is the coordination. So this is counterintuitive. So actually the way the teams try to work was to fully and clearly coordinate. Since they don't have a lot of time, they just made each other. They wanted to make sure everything is clear and every person knows what they have to do. This does not work as well, unfortunately. This is counterintuitive, so I'm stressing it as well. If you try to really do everything to coordinate fully and clearly, this will lead to failure and lots of frustration. So what does work? What are the good news? How can we make this work? So the first thing is not to try to compress what you know, to understand that these new extreme conditions require new different processes, way more experimental. And the second thing about coordination is do not try to fully coordinate, but instead what we found the teams that were able to produce working products, brand new working products in 3 days, that they did something that we call minimal and adaptive coordination. What do we mean? Minimal means you do not fully agree on the specific measurements and methods and materials of the product or the solution that you're going to build. You only agree on the rough outline and straight jump into experimentation. So time-wise, this was up to an hour of a discussion and then quickly split into individuals and teams that start to iteratively experiment. And the adaptive part comes when you adjust to the results of this experimentation from each other. So that's what helps. But what's happening now, we're adding remote to it, right? So this happened in hackathons when we had in person. What happens when you do remote? So this is the big EU versus virus effort that I was telling you. This is the largest online collaborative effort so far to fight COVID. More than 20,000 participants. 2,400 projects that participated, out of which 120 working projects that are becoming now startups. And I warmly recommend for you to study them. It's open to academics. It's a very interesting project. But I'll tell you what have we learned. So what have we learned? The winning teams, the 120 out of the 2,400, were those that either were teams before, meaning some of their coordination issues were solved before, they had a common ground, or what they did when they just met was that they made sure that they have a visible workflow. Because as I said, you need to adjust to each other. So how can you adjust when you're hardly seeing each other? So what we warmly recommend based on this quick study that we're still kind of analyzing the data is to open cameras, to share ongoing work documents. Do not wait until something is perfect to share with your team members. If you wait until it's perfect, it's too late. So that's kind of what we've learned on the team level of analysis. And if you want to hear more about how to manage such teams for creativity, I created this short animated movie and we will share it, the link via the chat. Now moving to the organizational level of analysis. So what organizations, what are they doing to accelerate the process? One thing that we have seen is definitely that they're responding fast by using open innovation initiatives. So what I mean by open innovation is a wide variety of collaboration online, crowdsourcing, hackathons, citizen science. So kind of across boundaries, not only with the organization of few others, something that is open for the population and other professionals to join. And you can see time-wise, and this is kind of showing the graph with the cases in the US, how the responses have grown and are still growing. We're collecting kind of quantitative data of about more than 100 kind of since February right now of these initiatives sponsored by government, universities, and companies. What else have we seen? That since the problem space is so dynamic, the time, that's kind of why I'm talking about time and acceleration, is shortened for this effort. Initially, we thought we understood the problem and people and organizations gave kind of a month or 2 months to solve a problem. Now it's becoming shorter and shorter over time because people understand that the problem is constantly changing and we need to be more agile around our understanding of the problem. And one interesting case that I'm doing kind of a deep dive into is the ventilator shortage problem and the different ways the different organizations attack it. The big lesson that we have learned so far that I can share is that they're designing the process with a full path to implementation already in place. And what I mean by that is most times that organizations are using crowdsourcing or open innovation, they're really focused on finding a solution, but they forget often, unfortunately, what happens once they found a solution. How will it get implemented or adopted? That's where the failure usually happens. And now, because there was a real need, they made sure that the path is clear for implementation in different ways. And in new ways. So this is fascinating. And if anyone wants to share more of what they know about it, I'm really curious to hear. So this is it for today. And I'll stop sharing screen and I'll move to Batia.